Hey, it's Zim, and today we're taking an early look at the Slormancer. This game is in early access on Steam, and is best described as if Diablo met Castle Crashers. It's got a very humorous setting, the writing's pretty decent, and has a very good action flow that the action RPGs like Diablo or anything like that, like Path of Exile, has. It's a ton of fun, and I wasn't expecting much, but we're going to go ahead and jump into it right away. And as you can see, we're in this kind of pixel art style game, and we have a town we can wander around. My biggest complaint with this is probably the town, which is everything is just so widespread that it's kind of a pain to get around from place to place. It just takes extra time that doesn't need it. I mean, when you play Diablo 3, for example, you've noticed that they condense a lot of the towns to like one area that's very easy to get around and talk to people very quickly. And I feel like this game could use that, but obviously they have this massive map and world that they want you to explore. So take that as you will. So in the Slormancer, you're going to be going around doing the story, but however, in early access right now, the story isn't finished at all. In fact, you can basically play through the first act, and that's about it. However, we also have expeditions. These expeditions will essentially allow us to kind of push further and get like just random enemies and different things. Now, there are also going to be different battlefields, but obviously because in early access, we are also limited on that. These will reward different things like gold and the slurm or slorm, which is used as a currency for basically everything, including upgrading your character, upgrading your character's skills, upgrading your character's specializations, and upgrading certain other things throughout the game. It's the most important of the currencies. The other currency is obviously gold, which is used at the shop. Now, I feel like right now, currently, the shop's prices are too high to unlock certain things, and then you just end up waiting for a lot of gold to come in. But I'm guessing that as they release more and more of the story, and you progress more and more of the game, those gold values will go a lot higher, and that'll fix that problem. But currently in early access, you do feel like if you want to unlock the first layer of the store, essentially, it costs 5,000 gold, and you do feel like you're kind of grinding for that. But we're going to go ahead and jump into one of these expeditions so I can show you some of the combat. So here we go. Now, you control the character through WASD, which is not what you'd normally do in an action RPG that's similar to Diablo or Path of Exile. Normally, you click to move. You can turn on click to move in this game, but what I have found with click to move is it doesn't react as well as it should. It's not very smooth. It can get hung up on a lot of things, and so it can get frustrating to move with click to move. However, when you turn to just having it off and just using the WASD, it's so smooth and it's great feeling that it's not too big of a loss. Just know that if you're going into this wanting to use the click to move system, it is definitely in need of a little bit of patching and better smoothness when moving around. We'll go ahead and fight some of these enemies. One of my biggest complaints also is, as you can see, you can't see my character. Now, in an action RPG, that can be a really big problem if you can't see enemies hugging a wall. And I feel like there's a very simple solution by just having these go transparent the closer you get to these walls, and this game definitely needs it. So as you can see, we have different enemy types. Enemy types are a little bit scarce. Right now, I currently have seen 6 or 7 different enemy types. Obviously, once again, early access. So as we expand the game, as they expand the game, we will see more enemy types, hopefully, and more varieties. But most of the enemy types are very interesting. I would say not very dangerous. I would say this game feels a little bit too easy. But once again, that's going in with the understanding that we're still in the first act, and that will eventually pick up. We also have these portals here, which will summon in different types of enemies and different amounts. It's kind of a random guess of what they will end up. And then we have loot. So on your character screen, just like you'd expect, you can have different gear. Now, with all the gear, none of this will show up on your character model, which is a bummer. I think one of the biggest reasons I play Diablo-style games is because I want to see my character look really awesome. I want to deck him out with this sweet gear that looks really cool. Half the time I play Warriors is because I want to see them in that awesome and just bulky, terrifying-looking armor. And we're not going to see that with this game, unfortunately, which is a bummer. The weapons, I'll get into a second, will change based on appearance, but there are a lot less weapons than what you would expect in an action RPG similar to Diablo, but there's a reason for that. So if we look at the weapons, these are our Slorm Reapers. Now there are 3 different types of weapons, and each weapon is kind of specific to their class. Mages use these staves, archers use bows, the huntress uses bows, and the warriors use swords. They also have their own stats, as we can see. My original one is level 12, and this will increase both their just percentage damage as well as the different effects that they have. My one complaint with this system is as you unlock these Slorm Reapers, which are random, they all start at level 1, and you can't really increase that XP other than fighting with them. So as you progress more difficult content, that's going to be kind of an issue of like, either you're going to end up replaying lower level content that's not very challenging so you can level up these weapons, or you're going to be taking on the normal content that's suited to your level, but your weapons are going to do less damage, which is going to make it either A, harder, or B, grindier. Just a little bit of a worry, but not too big. And so far, like I said, these are random drops, and they have some pretty cool designs. Anyway, we'll continue moving on through this. So as you can see, I'm using basically 2 abilities. Now that is kind of what this game is about. Right now, my 1, 2, 3, and 4 are not available to me because you need special auras, essentially, for these, or ancestral skills. Now, ancestral skills are also unlocked via Slorm and jewels, essentially. But as we look at our character slot here, we've also unlocked other abilities, but these can only be placed on our left or right mouse button. So the abilities are somewhat limited, but that's fine. I feel like they're very diverse, but once again, you'll notice that they all have XP and additional perks to unlock. Now that's cool because you can make them more interesting, but if I want to switch over to a different ability, it means that these are going to do less damage and have less perks than my original ones that I've been leveling up. Once again, forcing you to either A, go to weaker content to level them up, or B, stay with your same content but face the fact that you're either going to have a harder time or a grindier time getting these up, which once again is a slight concern. I wish there was a way to either spend a resource to make them automatically get to a certain level equal to whatever your highest level skill is at that time, or something else. It'd be really nice. We also have specializations. This ability is tied to my specialization, and we have 3 for each class. Now, this game is all about character customization. They want you to constantly be trying out and doing different builds whenever you want, and so the entire point of this, to play it, is to play with all these builds. And what's really cool is you get to change your skills around and everything, including your specializations, whenever you want. Does that throw off game balance a little bit? Yeah, probably. But it's really cool to be able to, like, all right, I'm playing this Enduring Protector. I've had a ton of fun with it, but I'm kind of getting bored with it. And then suddenly I'm going to just switch all my stuff into, you know, the Champion or the Distinguished Knight. And that includes attribute points. So I can immediately start reducing attribute points and putting them somewhere else if I want, at no cost. At any point in the game, you can change your build whenever you want. Once again, really cool. might throw off balance a little bit, but the whole point about this is to just play really awesome, unique builds whenever you want, instead of having to feel like you have to start a brand new character. Now, going back to this screen, though, if we're changing our specializations, we're going to have the same problem of specializations have a level, so it's going to be weaker than your original specializations or skills that you're originally using. Once again, I just wish there was maybe some kind of mechanic that would help either catch you up faster or allow you to use a resource to spend into it, so you're not feeling like, oh, I'm gonna stick with this because I just don't want to deal with the hassle of leveling up a skill. But that's just my personal feelings on that anyway. Your character faces whichever way your mouse direction is pointing. But it won't reduce speed or anything, it's just going to dictate how you're swinging and where you're swinging from. Health and mana are down at the bottom, just like what you'd expect. And there's an elite that we've summoned. Now, elites are a lot stronger, have more health. We're going to use our special ability here. And they can be very dangerous. I will say that this game starts out quite slow when you're learning the combat and your new abilities and everything. The enemy density is very low. You feel like they take a lot more damage and they deal a lot more damage. You also feel like you're constantly moving in and out of combat, so you're just kind of kiting everything. As you can see, we've also released a captured person from one of the portals. This will happen either with weapons or villagers, and these people will go back to your town afterwards. You can also talk to them, and they give you a brief explanation. So he'll say he's going to be back in the village, and when we go back, we can go see what he has to offer for us. Yeah, these the walls on the side are definitely a problem also for abilities that are triggering on the ground that I may not see because the wall is blocking it. So transparent walls would be a very nice addition, at least for now. But in terms of game speed, it does start out slow, like I said, but it does start to pick up very quickly, at least in the campaign. Obviously, when you're doing these wave-based missions, you're able to keep pushing this farther and farther as much as you want, based on the floors. And so, obviously, it's going to start out a little bit easier, and then it's going to keep increasingly getting more difficult as your floors go off. So that's just something to expect with that anyway. But in the campaign, it definitely does start off pretty slow for the first, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 missions, I'd say. All feels like an extended tutorial, which isn't great, especially because the initial tutorial's really solid, and then each mission just feels like they are hand-holding you a little bit, and that is unideal. Especially because I think most people who are going to be interested in playing this game are people who are very familiar with the genre and enjoy doing ridiculous character builds and trying to figure out how to, you know, break certain things and what can I make super overpowered. And so I don't feel like it needs that hand-holding nature. You'll notice also, if you're familiar with the genre, normally your health would regenerate over time, and that does do it slowly, but only if you have certain skills. Right from the get-go, you won't actually be able to. And so that is something that you also keep in mind. Is that health is a pretty big resource that you don't have any potions or anything like that, so what you have is what you have to work with. However, every time you level up, you will fully heal and get your resources back, so that is also something to keep in mind. Also note, unlike in other games, if you open up a menu for whatever reason, it pauses the game in the background. So that means if your character levels up or anything like that, you can automatically deal with the level up and get the points and upgrade your skills and things like that, and then re-enter combat, which is nice. It's just something that is definitely not normal for the genre. Tab to menu for the map. And as you can see, it's a lot of kiting, which is, like I said, I'm a very defensive and bulky character. So it's a real shame when I feel like oftentimes I am just kiting, which should be a mechanic for the huntress or the rogue of the characters, and not for the warrior. But like the warrior has no real sword and shield because your only choices for these Slormancer weapons are two-handed swords. Or at least from what it seems. There are no other weapon types that I've seen drop, and it doesn't look like there's a sword and shield Slormancer. So it's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to stand and fight, especially because of how big a health resource can be in this game. And because you have no potions to instantly recover health or anything like that either. I love the animations for this game. I think the animations are amazing. I think they did an amazing job with it. Everything feels smooth and clean. The combat itself feels really good. There's a lot to enjoy here. And once you've done an expedition, you can either continue or head home. Now, if you die during an expedition, it'll kick you out and you'll get less rewards. Or if you flee early, you will also get less rewards and penalties. Now, as you can see, we also get a stats screen about everything we've done, which is nice, but there are a couple things that I have questions about. As we can see, influence, and I'll go over that in a second as well. But it will tell you, like, certain items that you've broken and things like that. Like buckets spilled, for example, is a great one. Or if you're in chapter, or if you're in Act 1 when you're doing the story mode, it's like how many tombstones have you broken. It doesn't add anything, though. There's no bonus for it. So then, like, when you realize that there's no bonus for breaking these things or spilling these buckets, you're not going to go out of your way to do them, and so I don't know why they keep track of them. I do hope that they'll put in some sort of, like, bonus modifier for it, but as of right now, there is no reason to do it. But back to influence. As we can see, influence unlocks new enemies. Now, this is a weird one. I don't know why enemy types are locked behind this influence wall. I don't know if it's to help make things easier for the initial play, and then as you get better and they start throwing more enemies at you, you're prepared for it. But I feel like it's not necessary, and I've definitely seen some people complain in the Steam reviews that there's not enough enemy variety, and that's not true. It's just they're just kind of locked behind things that they don't need to be locked behind, so it's quite weird for it to, and it's something that I would hope that they are planning on changing at some point in the game. So as you can see, we're back at town, get some rewards for being the expedition, and we have our new villager here. So this one is allowing us to essentially respec our skills from the resource that we're using. So when we're in that menu there, and I've invested so much of this slorm into it, but I don't want to use it anymore, and I want to change my ability around, I would lose all that invested because it's just stuck in that skill. Now, if I go back to that skill, it's there. What that guy does is he's going to allow me to get my resources back, or at least a portion of them, and then that way I can move that around if I need to. I don't know if that's necessary, but like that right there is basically what I want for the skills, but XP wise, because XP seems like it's definitely important. Anyways, guys, this is the Slormancer, currently in early access, taking the early look. Should you pick it up right now? If you love Diablo style games or Path of Exile, and you really love just the character customization side of things with all the different skills and trial and error stuff, I think you'll love this game. It's definitely worth picking up right now. It's currently $14.99 on Steam, which I think is a very fair price. The soundtrack's decent. The animations are amazing. The combat flows very excellently. Now, if you're hoping to play for the story or a ton of unique content, I would say hold off, but keep your eyes on this. This game is not finished. The first act is done, but there's not a lot to it. I think you can honestly complete this act in 4 hours, maybe less. And then if that's all you're interested in, and you're not interested in all the unique character customization stuff that you can do and grinding against different enemies but in the same location essentially, because that jail area that you saw me go through is the only zone available right now. That and the chapter zone, the act zone. You're going to want to wait. It's definitely a game that you should keep an eye on. It's definitely a game that is worth your time. It's just probably not worth it right now. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you checked out Slormancer or are planning to, or if there's a game in early access that you think I should check out as well. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll talk to you guys later.